Silence the violence! Increase the peace! We're all friends in this world! T-pose for freedom! So yeah, Escapism was a pretty interesting episode. Up to this point, the Diamond Days arc has involved getting to know the Diamond's routines, Steven's failed attempts to talk to White, an accidental fusion, almost the entirety of the crystal gems getting poofed at once, and Steven reenacting Cinderella. I'm wearing a dress that rocks made. A lot of the episodes, Together Alone in particular, have had some pretty heavy stuff going on, so it only makes sense that before the upcoming 4-part season finale, the writers will want to give us an episode that's a bit more chill and relaxing. A calm before the storm, if you will. So what would be more perfect than an episode with our favorite watermelon people? So yeah, right off the bat, I want to talk about the direction this episode decided to take. A lot of people were expecting something a lot more epic or involved with the reveal of a new song and everything, but what we got was an episode that has almost nothing to do with Homeworld and was instead set on an Earth location that we haven't visited in a while. Plus the new song simply played in the background instead of being sung by a canon character. As you would expect, when anything is hyped into oblivion, there will always be people upset with the payoff. But if you ask me personally, I think this is the perfect episode to play right before the season finale. Think about it. The characters we know and love are in deep, deep trouble. The crystal gems are out of commission, the diamonds are furious, White is gonna find out about the fusion, and Steven and Connie are trapped in a jail cell with barely any food. This is a very bleak scenario. So making the decision to set an episode back on Earth, away from all this turmoil, is a great idea. Just the change in visuals from a great dark empty jail cell to this bright lush and colorful island gives us a nice little bit of levity before the inevitable chaos that's going to unfold on Homeworld pretty soon. Some say it should have been more epic, but I think it gave us a small dose of calmness that we definitely needed before the season's big finish. And hey, just because this episode isn't Homeworld based doesn't mean it can't have a compelling story, and if anyone remembers the other Watermelon Steven episodes, which I wouldn't blame you for since it's been quite a while, you'd appreciate the neat angle they decided to take with them. The last time we saw these little guys was in Super Watermelon Island, where they all band together to help the Crystal Gems take down Malachite. The Crystal Gems thanked them for their bravery, a tremor attacked the island, and that's the last we ever saw of them. Until today. And it's ironic that the last thing we saw was the island being physically split up, because what we see in this episode is the island being spiritually split up. Yup, I'm serious. This episode involves the Watermelon Stevens being divided between two sets of beliefs, the peaceful sacrificial actions of Baby Melon from Watermelon Steven, and the bravery of the Melon Soldiers against Malachite during Super Watermelon Island. This is an amazing concept for an episode because this is exactly what happens when you introduce a different set of beliefs to a people who only have one way of thinking. There will be conflict and arguments over which side is better. There will be those that wish to remain one way and others who wish to seek something different. If you remember, the only belief system the Melons had before Super Watermelon Island was that of Baby Melon's sacrifice. But now with two idols capturing the minds of the Melons, there's bound to be some differing opinions over which one should be followed. It's not the deepest commentary in the world, but for a group of tertiary characters that we haven't touched in years, I'm surprised just how much interesting stuff was squeezed out of them. Also, I heard a lot of people comparing this episode to Lord of the Flies, but I don't think I would go that far. From what I remember, the boys from the book who split up from the group eventually became savages, who would not be opposed to killing one of their own if it would help them with food or survival. While the warrior group of Melon Stevens definitely puts an emphasis on conflict over compassion, I don't really see them as savage. They seem to have a pretty well-developed civilization, and we never see them killing one of their own group, so I don't really know if that comparison fits all that well. In addition to this just being a great story on its own, I also like to think of it as a bit of foreshadowing for what might be coming in the next 4 episodes. For instance, the Star-Bellied Melons and the Combat Melons could easily represent the Homeworld Gems and the Crystal Gems, and the way Steven tries to unite them together for a common purpose might be symbolic of how Steven will eventually unite all of Gemkind in a similar way. As for how he's going to unite the gems, I think the fight with the Melon Shark might hold the key. Notice that he starts by throwing the giant spear at it, and then finishes by giving it a hug to calm it down. He used both aggressive methods and peaceful methods to get the job done. So maybe this represents that Steven might need to both fight and talk his way out of the situation, instead of just doing one or the other. Honestly, it's all up to interpretation either way, but I like to think that this episode is throwing us some hints. And lastly, we have the ending. which I found a lot better than most give it credit for. First off, getting to see Mel and Steven's bodies start to rot in the sun and even fall apart after the long journey really adds some tension to the situation, and makes you realize that this could be Steven's one shot to contact his friends back on Earth. Luckily, Lion shows up just in the nick of time to save the day. We see Greg on the beach playing his guitar in front of the sunset as Lion emerges with an exhausted Mel and Steven. And here is where we hear the song Escapism. Like I said, people weren't too happy that it wasn't sung by a canon character, but I actually see no problem with it. Remember the time that I Could Even Learn How to Love was played over the scene of Steven and the Gems just crying and hugging it out? Sure, it was in the background, but it added a lot to the emotion of the moment. And I feel this song does the same thing. But instead of being a song of happy relief, this feels more like a song of melancholy, since this is a pretty sad situation. I mean, if this plan fails and Greg, Bismuth, and Lion are unable to make it to Homeworld in time, this could be the last time that Steven sees these members of his family. That's a pretty sad thought. And the way they end the episode with him just saying,
"Guess we'll see what happens,"
further cements just how uncertain he is in this situation. Will he ever get out? Will he ever see his friends again? He doesn't know, and honestly, we don't know either. But I guess we'll have to wait till the season finale to find out. So despite what others may think, I feel that Escapism is just what we needed before the upcoming juggernaut of an episode next week. It was a simple but sweet break from Homeworld with a great use of continuity and some possible foreshadowing of what's to come. Much like an actual slice of watermelon, this was a nice little snack before we get to the much bigger meal in the future, and I'm hoping that it'll be every bit as epic as we've been expecting it to be. Well, that's all I've got for you today. Tell me your own thoughts on the episode in the comments below. And before you ask, yes, I will be doing Steven Universe episode reviews from now on as well, so hopefully you all enjoy them. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I hope to see you all real soon.